The auction yard burned with dust and heat. Noon sun poured down like molten brass, turning men's hats into shadows that cut across their weathered faces. Horses shifted, ropes creaked, the air smelled of sweat and whiskey. On the platform stood 3 Mexican sisters, 19, 22, and 24, wrists bound, dresses torn from travel and mistreatment. Their dark eyes carried hunger and shame, but also a stubborn light, as if the desert itself had hardened them against despair. The crowd jeered. $5 apiece, shouted the trader, a cruel man with slick hair and teeth yellowed by tobacco. 3 for 15, gentlemen, a bargain. Laughter roared. Boots scraped the ground. Men spat, some nudging each other, imagining things they did not deserve to imagine. The youngest trembled, pressing close to her sisters, who stood taller though fear pinched their lips. And then the crowd hushed. A broad-shouldered rancher moved forward, his long coat dust-streaked, hat brim shadowing a square jaw marked by years of wind and labor. He did not swagger nor smile. His presence itself was enough to clear space. "I'll take them," he said. His voice was low, but it cut through like steel. The trader blinked. "You'll?" The rancher tossed a leather pouch onto the platform. Silver dollars spilled across the wood, ringing louder than all the jeers. "More than 5 each. Enough to end this shame right now." The sisters' heads jerked up. The crowd shifted. Murmurs rose, some mocking, some grudging. "You think you can just walk off with what ain't yours?" snarled one of the trader's hired men, a scarred brute with a whip curled at his hip. The rancher's gaze turned. Cold. Unmoving. "They're women. Not stock." A long silence. Even the horses stilled. Finally the trader, seeing more coin than he'd hoped, scooped up the silver. "Take him then. They're yours." His voice dripped greed, but his eyes carried a promise. This wasn't over. The rancher stepped onto the platform. His hands, rough as oak bark, undid the ropes. One by one he lifted the sisters down. The youngest clutched his sleeve before she could stop herself. He gave a single nod, steady as stone. Then, with the entire town watching, he led them away. The trail home wound long through dust and sage. The sisters rode in silence, skirts gathered against the saddle, hair whipping in the hot wind. They glanced often at the man who said nothing, who seemed carved of silence. But silence was safer than laughter. Silence did not wound. By the time the sun fell red across the ridges, they reached his ranch. A house of timber stood plain but sturdy, smoke curling from its chimney. Corrals stretched wide, cattle lowed in the dusk. Waiting outside were 3 young men, his sons. Broad-shouldered, sunburnt, each bearing the same quiet gravity as their father, though with the restless fire of youth in their eyes. The eldest stepped forward. His gaze fell on the 24-year-old sister, then dropped respectfully to the ground. The second's glance lingered on the 22-year-old, shy but fierce. The youngest, hardly older than the 19-year-old, shifted nervously, brushing dirt from his hands. Inside, the table was set. Wooden bowls, fresh bread, beans simmering in iron. The sisters sat stiffly at first, hands folded tight. But when the eldest son passed bread without a word, when the second poured water carefully, when the youngest smiled awkwardly, something softened. The sisters lowered their eyes, but their breathing eased. One of them whispered gracias beneath her breath. That night, in the quiet of lantern light, they slept in clean beds for the first time in months. The house smelled of pine and smoke. Outside, coyotes cried at the moon, but the sisters rested. And the rancher kept watch from the porch, pipe unlit, staring into the darkness. Days turned to rhythm. The eldest sister rose early, grinding corn, her hands sure. The second tended the garden, coaxing green from dry soil. The youngest laughed softly once, startled by the rancher's old dog nosing her skirt. But shadows lingered. One evening, as the sky bled orange over the hills, the second sister froze at the crack of a whip echoing faint from the distance. She gripped the wooden rail, knuckles white, eyes gone wide. "They hurt you," murmured the eldest son, standing near. Not a question. Her throat worked, but she nodded. "They said we were dead. That we must pay with our lives." Her voice trembled in English, broken but clear. "Our father dead. Our mother gone. No one to save us." The son's jaw clenched. He said nothing more, but the next morning the fences stood tighter, rifles oiled. Word came with a rider, a neighbor bringing news. The trader was furious, claiming the sisters stolen. He was gathering men armed to take them back. The rancher listened in silence, then nodded. When the rider left, he turned to his sons. "We stand." The sisters, hearing, looked at each other. Fear flickered, but also something fiercer. They began to help without being asked, hauling water, stacking wood, grinding powder into cartridges. Survival was no longer one-sided. The storm came with the enemy. Wind tore across the plains, bending grass flat, carrying dust that stung the eyes. Thunder cracked over the mountains. Against the horizon, horsemen rode, dark shapes against lightning flashes. The trader at their head, whip coiled at his saddle, eyes burning with greed. The rancher stood before his house. His sons flanked him, rifles steady. Lantern light glowed behind, where the sisters waited. "Those girls are mine," the trader shouted, voice ripped by wind. "Bought fair. You'll hand 'em over or bleed for it." The rancher's coat whipped in the storm. His hand rested on his rifle. "They were never yours." The men spurred forward. Gunfire cracked like thunder's echo. The eldest son fired true, dropping a rider. The second swung wide, defending the flank. The youngest stumbled, nearly fell, but the 19-year-old sister rushed out, shoved a rifle into his hands, her dark eyes fierce. "Stand," she whispered. He did, and his shot rang true. The 22-year-old, trembling but determined, hauled water to douse sparks as a lantern shattered. The eldest sister, calm amid chaos, pulled the younger two behind cover, shielding them with her body. Steel clashed. Shots roared. Horses screamed. In the thick of dust and rain, the rancher himself met the scarred brute who once mocked with a whip. The whip cracked, cutting the air. The rancher caught it on his arm, pain flaring, but with a growl, he pulled the man from the saddle and ended it with a single, decisive strike. The trader, seeing his men fall, tried to flee. But the storm itself betrayed him. His horse reared at thunder, throwing him into the mud. He crawled, cursing, until the eldest son stood over him, rifle aimed. The rancher raised a hand. "No more blood. Let the law take what's left of him." By the time dawn broke, the storm had passed. The trader was gone, dragged away by what remained of his men. The ranch lay standing. The sisters, though shaken, stood taller. And there, in the golden light breaking through the storm clouds, the rancher turned to his sons. Their eyes met the sisters. Silent. Certain. "You'll not be slaves again," the rancher said softly. "If you'll have it, this is your home. And my sons, they'll honor you." The eldest sister stepped forward, took the eldest son's hand. The second did the same. The youngest, cheeks wet with tears she had not noticed, placed her trembling hand in the youngest son's palm. No vows were spoken that moment, but the truth was carved deeper than words. Together they stood, three couples born of dust and storm, yet bound now by dignity, by choice, by the promise of love. The rancher, weary yet proud, lifted his hat to the sun. Behind him, the house smoked gently, the earth smelling of rain. Before him stretched a future no storm could strip away. And the land itself seemed to breathe easier, as if the Wild West, harsh, cruel, yet capable of grace, had chosen to grant them peace. The final image lingers. Three sisters and three sons, hand in hand, framed by the golden light after the storm, the ranch rising solid behind them. The cruel laughter of the auction is far behind. What remains is survival, dignity, and love.